The Closing the Gap podcast is produced by the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas and is supported by the association, sponsors, and advertising. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Closing the Gaps podcast, brought to you by the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, also known as ANPA. My name is Jason Prater, and I'll be your host for today. The goal of Closing the Gaps podcast is to highlight and to share the stories of physicians and healthcare workers in Nigeria and in the United States and how they're helping to close the gaps in provision of healthcare services to people who need it the most. We will also be thanking our guests for their tireless work, finding out what other steps they wish to take in the future, and to help make healthcare more available to everyone, and of course, how we can help too. Before we begin today's podcast, I just need to stop and say that I am super excited. We today have Madam President herself, Dr. Chinyere Aniagu, who is the current president for ANPA, which is the Association of the Nigerian Physicians in the Americas. She and her leadership are helping to close the gap. And so enough of me. We want to hear from you, Madam President. What does closing the gap mean and this podcast to you?
Thank you, Jason. You're so kind. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, I'm really excited to be here in this Closing the Gap podcast, where we think it's really important to get these stories told. And basically, the premise surrounding this need is there are disparities in healthcare. There are lots of opportunities for those who don't have the privilege of having access to quality healthcare. And being able to create opportunities where this occurs over time is inherently part of the purpose of ANPA. In line with the vision of a healthier Nigeria, a healthier world, being able to provide quality healthcare to those who do not have access is really something that we hold close to heart. And this occurs by many ways, including medical missionaries, education, research, healthcare, innovation, entrepreneurship, to just mention a few. And so in this podcast series, we've heard wonderful stories of the amazing individuals throughout the organization who are doing just the same, who are actually closing the gap and doing fantastic things across the globe. This is our second season of podcast, and we're looking forward to continuing to have these stories with a lot of the memorable members to hear and listen, and perhaps create a community where more could be actualized and actually solve some problems. This season, we're going to have surprise guests, ANPA leadership, some of our executives, ANPA membership, and friends of ANPA all come and discuss and describe how exactly they're contributing towards creating health equity. And so we're looking forward to being able to hear the stories of various ANPA members, ANPA leadership, friends of ANPA, and other interesting people who have been phenomenal in being able to close this gap. I'm really excited. Our season 2 of this podcast, and we have actually completed season 1 last year, brings to us these exciting stories and officially starts June 19th, which incidentally is the first day of our annual scientific conference in Anaheim, California this year. ANPA turns 30 in 2025, and this year, the year of our 30th annual convention, we're looking forward to having dignitaries, friends, family, colleagues, and our learned brothers and sisters to come together and talk about maternal health and women's health in this annual scientific conference. So join us and enjoy the podcast. It runs weekly every Wednesday, and you'll be able to get these stories, get to listen, develop a community, and be informed. There's also an advertising opportunity that could be had with the various people who would sign up to not only listen to this podcast, but also share it with their areas of influence. I'm looking forward to listening this year.
I want to say thank you so much on behalf of ANPA, Closing the Gap podcast, for being a part of today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back soon and we will meet our next guest. Once again, thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Today on our show, Closing the Gaps podcast, brought to you by ANPA. We have an incredible doctor with us, Dr. Iffy, and we are excited to allow her to join, to be able to hear her heart, to be able to see what is it that she feels like she is contributing to closing the gap. And so without further ado, enough of me, more of her. So please, doctor, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your profession.
Well, thank you, Jason. Hi, all the listeners out there. My name is Dr. Ifeyinwa Osunkwo, and everybody calls me Dr. Ife because in America they can't pronounce my name. However, I do want to say that my name, Ifeyinwa, means there's nothing as beautiful as a child. And I love my name because I picked a career as a pediatric hematologist, oncologist, and bone marrow transplanter. So the name is quite appropriate.
Very much so.
I'm a professor of medicine and pediatrics. I had a 32-year career as a clinician and investigator and a researcher. And most recently, I joined industry, and I currently work for Novo Nordisk Rare Disease as a chief patient officer. I live in New Jersey, but my role is based out of Zurich. And that particular role is pretty unique. And what it is like I'm the ambassador for the company as a voice for the pharmaceutical company to explain to the population out there, the patients with sickle cell disease, why it's important to participate in research so that we can develop drugs that will help improve their condition. And then I'm the internal conscience of the company to try to help them understand how to develop drugs that are fit for purpose for the population that needs it. So I feel like I live my life on purpose. I have fun every day at work, doing what I love, and I'm glad to be here as your guest.
Okay. So that is so much. First off, doctor, you are doing a whole lot, but I caught one thing, and then I'm going to get into the other stuff, living your life on purpose. And you were talking about everything from helping, sounds like, kids to developing medicine to making sure everything is handled appropriately. And then you're telling us that you're doing it on purpose. I love that. So please, if you wouldn't mind, what do you mean by living it on purpose?
What I mean by living my life on purpose is I believe that we were put on this earth for a reason.
Yes, absolutely.
The best thing you can do is to figure out what it is God put you on earth for, and let that be your day job, your night job, and your fun. Wow. And I happen to have been blessed with the opportunity to realize what I wanted to do, what God put me on earth to do when I was really, really young. When I was 4 years old, I had an anaphylactic reaction to peanuts, and I ended up in the hospital, and I got exposed to healthcare, and I had a wonderful pediatrician. And that began my journey into healthcare. My mom was a nurse. My dad was a medical lab tech. And all my life, I was fascinated by health, medicine, helping people feel better. And I have asthma, and that was a big issue. And I was exposed to healthcare a lot. So I really decided when I was really, really young, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to help people. And I wanted to do this in a way that set us apart from everybody else. I wanted to be a doctor that understood the patient and that served the patient and not just myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I loved medical school. It was so much fun. I actually began my medical career at the age of 13, having done a certificate program as an LPN, a licensed practical nurse. So I was a nerd, like from really, really early in my life. And I knew how to do deliveries and stitches before I even went to medical school. And, it's just been a journey since then. I figured out sickle cell was my passion in medical school, and I trained to be a hematologist. I did pediatrics first and hematology. And I ended up with a career where I was able to take care of people with sickle cell disease from birth until age 21.
Wow.
And then I reinvented myself and began to do adult sickle cell disease. So I did 10 years in an adult program, building a system of care for adults with sickle cell disease. And then I was like, you know what? I think I want to be able to do this on a broader scale to help many more people than what I can see in clinic. And joining industry, instead of taking care of 10, 20 people a week, I can help people in the millions across the world.
Right.
And my focus in my job is sickle cell disease. And so, I'm living my purpose.
Okay, so doctor, once again, you're just amazing for one. Okay,
Thank you so much.
secondly, what I heard was this. So at a young age, as being a younger lady, there was another doctor that helped you.
Yep.
And that birthed a passion in you, right?
Yes.
So if we're talking about closing the gap, this is what I would like to see if you can encourage a listener, maybe that's in college right now, or somebody who's debating or on the fence, a young lady, hey, is this my passion? To share what that meant to you, to where what you just said right now, trying to help millions. Somebody encouraged you. You saw the heart of another doctor that encouraged you to be where you're at today, to be able to live your life on purpose, to help other people. What if there's another young lady thinking of yourself when you're younger? What would you say to her?
I would say hit me up on LinkedIn and I will talk you off the ledge to make sure you finish what you start. No, I kid you not. I love mentoring people. I've been a part of ANPA for many, many years. And one of the favorite parts of ANPA is the medical students program that happens on Sunday. And I just love letting people hear my story, understand that it's going to be hard. But if you love it, it doesn't matter how hard it is, right? You have to dream. I tell people, I say, you have to dream about what you want and not look at the potential short-term obstacles, but look at the longer-term joy, peace, and satisfaction you get from doing what you love to do. And yes, medicine will kick your butt. Going through the training, residency, fellowship, it's very, very difficult, but you can do it. You don't have to be the smartest person on the block. You have to be the most passionate person on the block. You have to want it more than you want to give up. And if that's you, I'm on LinkedIn. I can't give you my number on the podcast, but you find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Ife Osunko on LinkedIn, so you can't miss me. I will definitely reach out and support you. I think that there's not enough people talking about the reality of being a physician and a female, being a minority in America, being of immigrant parents in a healthcare system that is truly not designed for us or welcoming to us. I have been through every roadblock in my career that is known to man. From I went to the, second class medical school, to being treated like I'm the nurse, I'm the janitor, to being passed over for promotion, to, being, passed over for opportunities. You have to have grit and tenacity and a tribe of people supporting you. And I'm willing to be that tribe of people helping you to push through to get to where you want to go. But it can be done. It can absolutely be done.
That's right. That's right. And so you're saying a second ago, and sorry, I'm still stuck on it, was just living your life on a purpose. I now kind of want to rephrase that and say you're living your life and your passion on a purpose. And so for anybody that's out there that's wanting to be able to help, this doctor is kind of giving you a roadmap and saying, hey, it's not going to be easy, but when you see somebody in need, how can we as a specific individual close that gap? And so you said you've been a member of Association of the Nigerian Physicians for many years, put you a little on the spot. How long do you think that was exactly?
My first ANPA was in 2006. I had just moved to Atlanta to work at Emory, and my sister, again, said, hey, come to Florida. So I'm like, okay. I went to the conference with my husband and my kids, and I had a blast. I think I was so fascinated by seeing so many Nigerian physicians in one place. Because I was working in academia, and I was like the only Nigerian doctor, the only Black physician of color in an entire department. And I was like, okay, this is kind of lonely. So that was my first exposure, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. I missed a couple of years, and then I went back again in 2012, and I think I've gone every single year since then. And I have thoroughly enjoyed. And, Nigerians are unique people. We're loud, we're rambunctious. You might think we're fighting when we talk, but we're having fun. You can be yourself, right? When you go to ANPA Congress, you can be yourself. You can just let it out and be who you truly are. pull back what is called the code shifting and just be yourself, because everybody there understands your experience. They understand what you're going through, what you've been through, what they've been through, and they kind of share and support each other. It's also been an opportunity to give back. I went to medical school in Nigeria, and it was essentially for free. So I have a little bit of a guilt, right? I think if I add up my 6 years of medical school tuition, it can't be up to $200, $300 total. And so I feel like I owe an obligation to Nigeria and Nigerians to give something back to them for the wonderful education they gave me, to the fact that I'm one of the, no shade, leading sickle cell experts in the country and in the world. I think I should give back to Nigeria, which is the country that has a high sickle cell disease prevalence in the world. And so I really love that ANPA gives you a platform and a portal to be able to give back to the society that, pretty much invested in me and helped me become who I am.
That's huge. And I love it. And I think that's so awesome. And once again, just your passion. And I hope listeners, y'all are listening to this doctor, her passion, figuring it out, dealing with the grit, dealing with the hardships, but saying, you know what? Nothing will stop me. I'll be there to help. And so real quick, one last question, if I may ask you, doctor, what is a goal that you think that you have for your future where you think you can help to continue to close the gap?
So my biggest dream when I decided to go into medicine at the age of 13, I had a dream that I was going to one day help transform care for people living with sickle cell disease in Nigeria. That was my dream. I met this guy when I was in medical school. His name was Uche, and he had sickle cell disease. And literally, we grew up together. And when I graduated in 1993, December, he passed away. I think in 1995, I finished my internship. December, he passed away. I had just come back to the States, and he passed away. And I swore that was going to be a motivation for me to help change the outcome for people living with sickle cell disease. I had so many patients die, 4 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. He was one of the oldest people I had met. He was in his late 20s, early 30s. And I really couldn't believe that after all of that, he still passed away. And so I went into sickle cell disease with the purpose and the determination. And I've done research, I've done clinical trials, I've done program development in sickle cell disease. And I think my current role, where I work for a global pharmaceutical company that has at least 4 to 5 assets under development specifically for sickle cell disease, is part of how I feel my purpose and my passion is going to help close the gap for people living with sickle cell disease in Nigeria. My company has 6 sickle cell clinical trial sites in Nigeria. I've been to Nigeria multiple times in the past 2 years to try to help put this program in place and help implement these trials. And I can't wait for the conclusion of this study to where we can actually have new treatments for many, many, many more people living with this condition in our motherland.
Wow. Dr. Iffy, that is literally incredible. And our hearts go out to you that all of these things will be able to be accomplished. And what you're doing, what you've gone through personally, the impact now that you're trying to make, living your life on purpose and with a passion to help close the gap is truly inspirational. And so I want to say thank you so much on behalf of ANPA, Closing the Gap podcast, for being a part of today's show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back soon and we will meet our next guest. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Iffy.
You are welcome. Thank you. Have a good one.
At this point of the show, we're going to be taking a break and we're going to come back very shortly to meet our next guest. Please stay tuned.
Regions Healthcare Hospital and Specialty Clinics provide medical services for stroke patients, including neurosurgery, general cardiology, and critical care services. We also provide physical, occupational, and speech therapy rehabilitation services, including drug and clinical psychology counseling. Our hospital is located at kilometer 17, Owerri Port Harcourt Road, Imo State. For more information, visit us online at www.regionsneuro.com. Again, www.regionsneuro.com, or contact us via email on admin@regionsneuro.com or by telephone at +234 704 700 0011. ANPA Closing the Gap podcast listeners can get a 10% discount on initial admission and additional 10% discount on cardiac services when they mention ANPA Closing the Gap podcast. Faith and Power Ministries Louisiana is proud to announce the launch of a new book authored by Dr. Toby Moma, titled Gracing Favor, the Two-Leaf Gate for Unparalleled Greatness. In this book, Dr. Moma shares scriptural insights on how to experience God's divine grace and favor. Gracing Favor, authored by Dr. Toby Moma, is available for purchase on Amazon and Google or by phone at 1-631-747-6071. As you read this book, get ready to experience God's divine grace and favor. God bless you.
Today on our show, we have Dr. Yore James with us. So welcome to Closing the Gaps podcast. And we just want to personally say thank you so much for joining us today, Doctor. So if you wouldn't mind, please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your profession.
Thank you, Jason. Thanks for having me here. My name is Yore James. I am a general surgeon. I practice in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Awesome. North Carolina. All right. Well, tell us a little bit about what are you doing to help close the gaps in the provision of healthcare to those who are needing them the most right now?
Mostly providing surgical services to the underrepresented. I do this in North Carolina through our physician reach out program. It's a program for uninsured citizens who require surgical care but do not have insurance. And so I'm able to help close that gap by providing my services for free.
Wow. That's incredible. So right now it's a big need for individuals, especially if they don't have insurance, correct? And so what you're doing is helping to provide this assistance to the people that really are needing it. I think that's incredible. Please tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. It's a consortium of physicians along several disciplines. And essentially, when a patient is identified and brought into the system, the primary care physician sees the patient. If surgery is needed, the patient gets referred to me. I see the patient, and if I deem that surgery is appropriate, I go ahead and book them for surgery.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so what is maybe a future hope or a goal that you have continuing moving forward with that and what you're offering to these individuals?
A situation where, there is more accessibility to healthcare across the board. I mean, I think that in America, we've done or doing a good job trying to ensure that healthcare is accessible to most people. In Nigeria, though, that's a little different. How out-of-pocket pay is still very significant. A lot of people depend on missions to get their health care. So I would hope that in Nigeria, we can get to a situation where, most people have access to health care.
That's awesome. And so have you been on any
affordable, I should say, affordable access to health care.
That's right. Well, so have you been on any medical missions yourself? Have you done some partnering with ANPA and then maybe on your own?
Yes, I've done primarily with ANPA since 2018. I essentially do surgeries for this patient population who are not able to afford care.
That's awesome. So how long have you been a member with ANPA?
I've been a part of ANPA since 2013.
Wow.
So was that going on 11 years or so?
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for your service and your commitment. And so if a listener is tuning in right now and maybe they have some questions, or say, for instance, we've had on some of the other episodes, we've had young ladies and young men that are in college looking to seek wisdom ultimately. How do you feel about that? I know a lot of individuals, what they do is they love to continue to pass on what they've learned to the next generations. What are your thoughts on that to help close the gap in the future?
Oh, absolutely. I think education is key.
Yeah.
I'm not just educating the professionals that provide the care, but also the patient population that we serve.
Absolutely. Okay. And so You've been with ANPA since you said 2013, so 11 years. You've been on medical missions. Please maybe share an experience that you had on a medical mission, maybe something that touched your heart that really made you say, hey, you know what, I want to dive into this deeper. I really want to see what I can do to be able to serve my people better. Do you have maybe a brief story you could share with us?
Yeah, sure. So even though I've been with ANPA since 2011, I didn't really start going to medical missions until 2018.
Ah,
And I think the biggest thing for me, I mean, the missions are a bittersweet experience for me, actually,
okay.
just because I feel, you know, I'm very empathetic to the people who come to see us who otherwise don't have hope.
Sure.
As a surgeon, I'm able to treat a farmer who has a inguinal hernia, and he's able to go back to his farm to work when he recovers. There are multiple stories that I can share about that, but it's for me, it's sort of I would like a situation where people have access where they're not dependent on um, mission work. I mean, there's always going to be charitable work. That's not going away. Like I
Sure.
said, even in Charlotte, North Carolina, I am part of a physician outreach program where we do serve the underserved or the uninsured. I'm sorry, but at least the percentage of people who are uninsured in America is dismal compared to in Nigeria. So I definitely would like us to get to a point where there are more and more people that are insured, that they're able to get health care when it's needed, that's affordable in a timely fashion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And so some of the stuff that you've done for the outreach out there in Charlotte, do you have a brief story of maybe something that you've done for an individual where they just were super appreciative as well?
A particular story is not jumping to my
Okay.
my
No,
mind now. I mean, I take care of so many patients, but I mean, I think overall, patients are just grateful to be taken care of and to feel like they have someone who really cares about them and wants to get them feeling better.
yeah, I agree. I mean, the heart behind it is what really matters. And so for people all the way from Nigeria to here in the United States and Charlotte, North Carolina, when you have the opportunity to be able to serve them, I can only imagine just the leap of joy they feel in their own hearts and just, being in a state of gratitude for everything you've done. And I'm sure to you, it's a big kudos, all the hard work, everything you've done in your life to be able to get where you're at, Dr. James, and then to be able to turn around and serve people who are needing it. And I just think that's really incredible. And so, for our listeners that are tuned in again tonight, if you wouldn't mind, would you possibly be willing to share some of your contact information, maybe a website address, an email, or a contact phone number? So, if somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe get plugged in or whatever it may be, possibly give them an opportunity to do so.
Absolutely. The best way to connect is via LinkedIn, and it's at Dr. Iyori James.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, for everybody that is listening, we just thank you once again so much for tuning in to the ANPA's Closing the Gap podcast. Being able to be here with Dr. James, hearing everything that she is doing, not alone in Charlotte, North Carolina, but all the way out in Nigeria, being a part of ANPA, serving, loving on the people that are in need. From ANPA to us, to you, we just say thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Jason.
So at this point, we'll be taking a short break. We'll come back shortly to be able to meet our next guest, so please stay tuned.
M&G Itomi Foundation provides skills acquisition programs, graduate HSC programs, and community sports and recreation programs for impoverished youth in the Port Harcourt area of the Niger Delta in Nigeria. Our goal is to break the harsh cycle of poverty in these rural areas of Nigeria by teaching the values of self-empowerment and improvement through our various programs and activities. To find out more about what we do at M&G Itomi Foundation, visit our website at www.mgesolutions.org. We also welcome your donations, support, and sponsorship offerings. Together, we can facilitate positive change and programs for sustaining development of youth in the Niger Delta community. Transitions Women's Health Consulting LLC is proud to announce the launch of their book titled The Transitions Fourth Trimester Journal, authored by Dr. Janet A. Williams. This self-guided journal was designed by Dr. J, a midwife of 19 years, for new mothers to explore their experiences, self-acceptance in their new roles, and to give themselves the gift of self-care. The journal reinforces self-care and hospital discharge instructions, which make recognition of danger signs easy. It makes it a great gift from hospitals, doctors, midwives, and nurses. Give it to a new mother as a baby shower gift or place it in your baby shower registry. You can get the book at store.bookbaby.com and search for Transitions for Trimester Journal by Dr. Janet A. Williams and enter the discount code 10, that's CODE 10, to get 10% off.
Today on the show, we have Dr. Comey. She is a pediatrician certified in the United States. But listen, she has gone beyond medicine. She's even helped transform medicine and marriages. She is doing huge things to help close the gap. So without further ado, Dr. Comey, please, I just want you to introduce yourself, and I want to speak and hear a little bit about your profession and what you are doing to help close the gap.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Komel Segale, MD. I'm a board certified pediatrician here in upstate New York. And I am one of the executive member of the ANPA New York chapter. Been a member of ANPA for the past 4 years. And today I'm going to share about closing the gap in healthcare by focusing on this issue from a completely different angle. And that will be from that internal gap that we have. We talk about closing the gap with looking at health disparity in Nigeria and in North America, but I think one thing that we seem to neglect is the physician himself or herself, the gap within, okay? And that's where my focus is going to be on today.
That's perfect. And I would like to be able to hear a little bit more of what you mean in regard to that, because a lot of individuals we have on the show will speak about closing the gap, sometimes not always about what does that reflect or mean to you, or how does it even affect you. So if you would like to elaborate on that, we're loving to hear it.
I'd love to do that. So you see, I came to the United States as an immigrant to achieve my highest vision and goal, to be a doctor in the United States, right? To have a job satisfaction, provide for my family, have a good life and opportunities that I didn't have, to provide those for my kids, to earn a good income, right? To achieve the American dream. But I achieved my dream, but over time I became unhappy and then I had a heart attack.
Wow, yes.
So how did I get from being a highly successful physician to being, burnt out the way I was when I had a heart attack? Wow, so I'm going to talk about being burnt out and as a sign of, the gap on the inside. And so being burnt out is really a work-related syndrome. It's characterized by, state of mental exhaustion caused by one's professional life. Now, individual factors may affect burnt out, like high stress, combined with high ideals that we have as doctors, perfectionism. I was a perfectionist, I won't lie. I'm a recovering one. And that sense of responsibility we have towards our patient and the community. But burnt out is really driven primarily by systemic factors, such as working long hours at work, caring for sicker patients with complex needs, pressure to learn technology. We have a lot of issues with different EHRs, expectations from patients, like you're basically superhuman. You're supposed to know everything, do everything, and like overextend yourself for your patient. And then there's that increased pressure to produce, right? It's now, everything is now monetized, the amount of patients you see and all that. Then there's more time spent on administrative tasks rather than patient care. And then there's a constantly changing rules and roles that we play. That office-based healthcare is transitioning to population-based care. And then there's the micromanagement of medical practice by administration, government agencies. And you know what? You had the grandfather of it all, COVID-19 pandemic to the mix, and you have a disaster, So here, these factors I just described are really external factors. These are some factors that are out of my control. But the only thing I could control was myself, my choices, my actions and my reactions. But I didn't know. I didn't know. I was serving my patients and the community, but I was running from an empty tank. In fact, I think it was a gas tank that was fuming with gases. So I was actually pouring from an empty cup. My body was telling me, but I didn't take any notice. I wasn't even aware. I was not taking care of myself. And so there were symptoms. Yeah.
I'm
Go
so
ahead.
sorry, doctor, but this I think is paramount. And this is why there's so many people that want to love, they want to serve, they want to help. And in the process, you end up forgetting about yourself.
Correct.
And so in the middle of this, what you've learned is, hey, for me to be a maximizer in my field and my profession, being involved with pediatrician, working with children, I need to make sure that I'm okay so I can be the best I can be to help these individuals. And I think that's huge because a lot of times people will forget that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're learn this and we are so sorry to hear what has happened to you health wise with a heart attack and we are grateful that you are still continuing to push on and better health now. But I do think maybe that is a big thing when we talk about closing the gap in healthcare to make sure the leadership that's involved in it is well too.
You're right. So I'll speak to something that a lot of physicians that we kind of do the work, and you have the signs and symptoms that are showing up in your body, like having headaches. Like for me, I had
Right.
headaches, and I just took my Tylenol and got on with it. And I was having less sleep hours, 3 to 4 hours a week, a night. Then taking work home to work, and then there was the overeating and much weight gain, and I found myself getting mad easily, reacting to, one of the problems we have as pediatricians is dealing with the parents, reacting to the parents of my patient, like taking out my frustration and then taking that home to my husband and my kids. And I think one of the other major thing again was I wasn't taking into consideration the factor of aging, that my body was
Yes.
slowly declining with age. My strength is not like it was when I was in my 30s and my 20s and 30s. And then metabolism is changing as well. And the truth is, I think a lot of physicians, we don't go for annual checks. we treat other people, we take care of them, but we don't go. But so for me, I went, my numbers were fine, but there were stressors at home that I was running away from. And work was my gateway. So it was like my gateway drug, working so hard. And there were other devices that other physicians use, like smoking, substance use, drinking. There's this mindless social media, scrolling, Netflix binging, and all that, impulse buying, just to suit that gap within, right? The point is
So if you
that,
don't mind, let me ask this. So what you're telling us is for you to be the amazing doctor you are and to operate in your best level of excellence, you've learned now over time that, hey, I need to make sure I'm okay. If I'm
exactly,
talking to this child's parent, I don't want to be rude to them, but I'm burnt out. And now it's caused stress. And now I'm maybe taking it out on them. So now learning, wow, okay, if I'm okay, I can help others be okay. And that is a huge thing when it comes to closing the gap in healthcare. Because when
that's true,
somebody's in a dire emergency, they depend on the doctor.
exactly. So someone is a dire emergency, depending on the doctor, and the doctor is in dire emergency, but the doctor didn't know, like I didn't know. So,
Wow.
in a way, having the heart attack was a pivotal turning point for me, that I had to turn around and look at myself, and Nigerians are very religious, right? We talk about the Bible that, love God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. I think the part we leave out is loving yourself. And so loving yourself, what does that look like? So what did it look like for me, right? And how do I love myself? And one of the things I do now that I have changed the trajectory of my life is to encourage physicians in ANPA to take care of themselves by first filling up their cup. So what does taking care of yourself look like? So the first thing I did was, finding my own identity. Like, who am I if I'm not working as a physician? Because my identity was so wrapped up in my job that when I was off for work or from work for about 4 months for disability, I was confused because I wasn't being called Dr. Kome anymore, and everybody was gone out from the house, and I was alone, and it was scary. It was then I realized that, that in that space that I'm actually Kome first before I'm Dr. Kome. That
That's such a big deal.
Yeah.
That's
That
such a
I'm
big
valuable.
deal.
That's a big deal. That I'm valuable member of the society, even without my stethoscope. That I'm
That's right.
loved.
And if the doctors are struggling themselves, that creates a hardship. If we're trying to close the gap, if we're trying to help individuals, but then we neglect ourselves, just like what you said, it's to love others and to love ourselves, but do we pay attention to that? And so I'm curious, have you learned anything since you have joined ANPA, the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, that has maybe helped you realize through social interactions with them, events, maybe a medical mission if you participated in one of those, or just being around other doctors where you gained some wisdom that helped me be the better woman and doctor that I can be for others?
Yeah. So AMPA's medical mission is a great tool. It's a great thing that we're doing, trying to close the gap. My focus working with AMPA is really to help the physicians close the gap from within. And that's what I'm really focused on. And what I'm doing is, first of all, helping them to find their identity aside from work, discovering what they love to do. Like for me, I had to discover self-care, which was huge, one thing that I had to put into practice every day. And then managing the stressors in my life, like stressors in the life that I had to manage.
Yes, that's such a
that was huge. Yeah, that was
huge deal. That's awesome. Yes.
So one of the stressors I had was that the fact that I was also struggling in my marriage. I was struggling at work, I was struggling in my marriage. And when I was able to find a way to fix that, I found a tool that helped me tremendously to fix that. And that was the 6 intimacy skills that not only helped me fix that, it also helped me fix my relationship at work and all other relationships. And then I also learned to manage my work hours, where I was able to negotiate work hours that suited the lifestyle that I wanted to lead. And with all this together,
extremely important. Boundaries is what I'm hearing here now, doctor.
Yeah.
Love it.
with this tools that I have together, I am living my best life now. Close the gap from the inside so that when I'm working, I'm pouring from a cup that is full, a full cup, and I'm bringing my best self to my patients and my community. I'm bringing my best self in my home as well. So I have the work-life balance between my life and my profession. So basically, I'm on the other side. And because of that, I have this passion to support immigrant physicians like me on their own journey to find their own work-life balance as well. And as an AMPA member, this is one way I'm choosing to contribute to closing the gap, apart from and going with them on a medical mission. I haven't gone yet. My plan is to go next year for the 30th anniversary. But I know that if we don't close this gap, this crucial gap within us, it has wide-ranging ramifications if we don't pay attention to that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. So, doctor, you said you've been with AMPA for 4 years, correct? Okay. And you just shared some profound wisdom, in my opinion. And so if we have listeners today that are interested in contacting you, maybe there's another young lady that's involved in healthcare to some demographic or has maybe walked through what you've walked through and you found your victory, and how could they contact you? Would you be willing to maybe give a little bit of some contact details, whether it's maybe if you have a website or an email or a phone number that you can help close the gap with maybe another physician by helping them be
I have
healthy?
a website, and it's called www.thrivingwives.com. Thriving Wives. So I work with immigrant physicians to support them, to have thriving marriages and also balance their life as physicians. And I have a Facebook group. It's called Thriving Wives Club with Komel Segale. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thriving Wives with Komel Segale.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Kome, I just want to personally say thank you, because not alone are you showing your dedication to healthcare, not alone are you showing dedication to raising others up, but you're also showing love and passion to making sure that the people who are delivering the healthcare are okay too. And so on behalf of ANPA and Closing the Gap podcast, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that
You're
you do.
welcome.
Thank you for staying with us till the end of the show today. This has been the Closing the Gaps podcast, brought to you by the Association of Nigerian Physicians in the Americas, or ANPA. Remember to follow us on Facebook and other social media platforms. Our social media handles are as follows: Facebook, ANPA National; YouTube, ANPA 8415; Instagram, ANPA_National. You can also visit us at www.anpa, that's ANPA.org, for more details about up-and-coming events. Finally, remember to join us next week for our Closing the Gap podcast, where we'll have a whole new set of guests doing amazing things to close the gap and make healthcare services more accessible to people in Nigeria and in the United States. Once again, my name is Jason Prater, and it has been a pleasure being your host today. And until next time, stay healthy and have a fantastic day.